together. Does anybody, the chair recognizes that we have a quorum. First order of business is approval of the March 9th regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, signify.
Discussion, please.
Oh, discussion, yeah.
I'd like to change the minutes.
Okay.
They're on the second page where it
Okay.
says a recommendation of approval to renew the terms of the Airport Authority members, Pam.
Yeah.
Caudell and Vince Booth. It said made the motion to renew the terms of. The motion was made to recommend to the mayor to nominate them for renewal.
Okay.
Okay. Can you?
So I
Would you
will amend
that?
my motion to recommend the approval of the minutes with the annotation requested by Jack Burrell.
I'll second that amendment.
Everybody in favor of the amended motion to approve the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you, Jack. All right, the second order of business is is a good piece of business. It's to welcome and introduce Will Bruce, our newest board member. So Will, having said that, I'd introduce you, and would you give us an overview of what you've done before and what you would like to contribute to the Airport Authority?
Well, thanks. I appreciate the introduction. I look forward to becoming a working member of the group. Actually been chairman of an airport authority before in Selma. Try to cover up the fact that I'm from Selma. But been a pilot since I was 16 years old. Got my license on my 16th birthday and been flying without accident or incident since then. Knock on wood.
Tell me wood here.
So I look forward to becoming active in the group and doing what I can to help.
We welcome you. We look forward to putting you to work and doing good things for us.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, the next order of business is the annual review of the airport's insurance. This is a carryover from last month, but the property, the D&O is bound. We bound it just like it was last year, $4 million of D&O coverage. I feel like that's sufficient for our needs. Property and casualty insurance, I don't think it's bound yet because we're still working with the agent on a couple of sidelines. Most notably, the Baldwin County Board of Education is supposed to pay for the insurance for the Aviation Academy, which is $6,000 because it's a triple net lease, and we basically, they're going to pick up that nut going forward. So we're modifying our property and casualty insurance, and that we'll probably get that renewed in the middle of April, if you will. And then the final one is the aviation insurance. That's not due to probably. It says April 6th, but it's really June 6th. And it's not a very large policy as far as dollar-wise, but it has a lot of nuances in it. And I always like to sit down with Chip and Vince and some of the aviation professionals and kind of knock around what coverages we have and what coverages we don't have. Okay? Any questions? That's just for information. Okay? Next thing, number 4 is the same kind of thing, discussion. Every 5 years, we go out for an RFP for our landscaping services and general maintenance at the airport. We've been very happy with the services we've gotten in the past, but we just feel like it's good practice to go out with an RFP and try to see what the market is. We went out with right before, Josh, when did we do that? 1st of April?
It was around that time. I remember looking at it towards the very end of March, and we probably got it out just after April 1st, I think.
It's pretty burdensome. It'll scare you off by just reading it, but it's out there. As of today, I've had one person express interest. The deadline is April 27th, so hopefully we'll have some more people that are interested in doing the work. We had a non-mandatory contractors meeting, I guess, last Friday, and we had one person show up. So anyway, we'll get there, and we'll renew it for 1 year with the option to renew it for 4 more years after that. Any questions about that? Yes, sir.
I don't know if this is in the same areas that's being maintained. So this includes mowing of the grass?
Mowing the grass.
And is it all within the perimeter of the fencing? Because the question had come up several years ago about being able to lease some of that land for farming, which would essentially keep, it would,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to maintain that land, and it would generate a little
I think
revenue.
we're all, I will review that. If the farmer still wants to rent it on the other side, we'll entertain that.
I mean, it keeps the popcorn trees out of there, and,
Yeah,
keeps the soil tilled, and maybe generate a little revenue.
I think that's an excellent idea. We'll refer, I'll talk to our airport engineers here. We'll talk to him after the meeting, and we'll see if we can do that. The only thing that we don't maintain, and I've had complaints about this, is that, the signage when we come in, those bushes could need
Scared.
could need fertilizer and some up. I mean, they're just tired looking. I mean, considering we come in the Fairhope with all the flowers, whatever. We do not maintain the bushes and the Welcome to Sunny Callahan sign. That would be, if we could get maybe somebody to look into that. I think it looks a little tired sometimes. Okay?
Also, the colors that are used on that sign
Hey,
are so dark.
I've had some complaints
You
about
can't
that
read,
sign.
you can't read it.
Yeah.
It would be good to have it lit,
Yeah.
lighted.
Who does maintain it? Anybody?
I think the city does. I mean, that's kind of part of our, I don't know. I used to call periodically I would call the utilities department or the public works and ask them to, cut the shrubs and replace shrubs and whatever, and sometimes they responded. I did get the sign repainted with a new council member on there, so that was a good thing. But the signage, the signage in the front, we could upgrade,
Yes.
okay?
If your name's on there, you have to trim it once a month.
You don't want to come into a shabby area.
Did we do some amendments on the GC license bonding on the bid request?
We did, and it was, and I don't, to kind of start over, we used the city of Fairhope's template for RFPs, which is true overkill. And there were several areas in there where it was asked for like a general contractor's license, and I told the prospective bidders, and I'm gonna come out with the frequently asked questions, that you would only have to have a general contractor's license if what the work you were doing was a general contractor's work. Cutting grass is not something you have to have a general contractor's work in. Same thing with applying pesticides. That was something you had to be a bonded pesticides person. Again, if you're using Roundup to spray, you can buy that at Home Depot. You don't have to have a pesticides license to use Roundup. So there was a lot of overkill in that RFP. Again, everybody that's interested, I'll make sure that they have an even playing field, but we do not, answer your question, they do not have to have a general contractor's license.
Or bond?
Or bond. They do not have, they do have to have the, not a bid performance bond or surety bond, but there's one more bondage in there that we did have to ask them to have.
We had the performance bond
Yeah.
and
Surety and, one of them we didn't waive, but we said we're gonna do it, it's gonna be $10 a year, a performance bond.
Bid bond?
bid bond. We waived the bid bond.
We
took
waived the
that
bid,
out.
we waived the bid
We took
bond,
that
we
out.
waived the surety bond. The performance bond is gonna be $10 a year, just so we can keep it in effect if we do wanna go up with it. Okay, so, but it is truly written
Once we
in,
go in to contract somebody, we won't get a bond until that contract expires.
that's right.
Because nobody will write it.
Joe, who's doing the maintenance now? Who has the contract?
Bushwhackers.
Kyle Clemmer,
Yeah.
or we'll call it Bushwhackers. He's
Right.
an independent, he does a relatively good job. Cuts it I think we have 7 to 8 cuts a year. He sprays the fences, he replaces the lights as we need them. He's done a good job for us. Okay, again, just moving forward, update on status of East Side Construction Project. My 6:30 email Monday morning said that we were 67% complete. All the dirt work, I think we've got less than 50 loads of dirt left to put on the project, and they'll start asphalting at that point in time. So, quite a project. It looks really good if you haven't been out there and flown it. If you've flown over it, it really does look good. Questions? Okay. Next item is a review and discussion and development east side of the airport. Bobby Odom and Hank Eubanks are here from Volkert, and they're gonna take over this part and kind of lead everybody through it. And this is, anybody who wants to participate from the, this is, we're building the east side for you, so if you have thoughts on what needs to be on the east side or where things should be, please take this opportunity to do that.
Guys, I appreciate it. What Hank's passing out right now is a brief update to your 2010 plan. We had met previously and talked some general ideas about what was going on. I got
One for the record.
We had met generally about, let me back up. When we did this plan in 2010, this was kind of the kickoff to the whole east side development. So we did this for the FAA to look at and get started on. It's been tweaked over the years due to FAA changes and things of that nature. Vince, we talked about, I heard you mention earlier about this thing that the transitions, entrance and exits being modified over the years. And then just with the changing in the board, we've had some small changes, put to it like that. Weren't really expecting, this project to take off. It's kind of one of those deals where, hey, we got a plan, we're going forward, and all of a sudden we've got some interest real interest in the east side of the airfield. So this is kind of been kicked into overdrive. What we've working with you guys on now is, I think the biggest thing is getting in here, getting the roadway, right-of-ways laid out, utility corridors laid out, those kind of things. So that's kind of the driving force behind this, and adding those in here. So we had met a little bit, talked briefly about some stuff. Please understand, this is very, very preliminary. This is draft. We have not, we wanted to kind of just show you guys what we were doing. We put an updated layout of exactly what was the ultimate plan. What they had changed a little bit, like I said, in 2010. We made some comments in here. We've got an estimated utility corridor, and one of the things we're going to do as part of this job is sit down with each of the utilities and find out exactly how much easement right away they're going to need for each one, line all that out, figure out exactly what we can and get in here. So, like I said, we show a 60-foot utility corridor on here. At the end of the day, that might be 40, that might be 80. So just keep that in the back of mind. Very, very preliminary drawing. Here, we're going to sit down and figure out exactly what utilities we want for each service, how much, how big, and those kind of things. Generally speaking, the things that we've kind of changed is, if you'll start, I'm going to start right here in your right-hand corner where you see fuel farm area. What we had talked about is trying to consolidate the fuel farm areas over here and keep it over there, not use up our valuable building space. As we all know, road frontage apron frontage is the most expensive and valued area there. So right now we're talking about clustering those over in that area right there. You come around the apron, we've got a set aside right there. We call it proposed terminal building. I know there's been some talks about 4,000 to 6,000 square foot actual terminal building, and some all know that leaves you about 10,000 square foot. The concept there is a lot of places will do an FBO, and the FBO will have a big hangar. So that'll leave you a good sized hangar to go along with your terminal building. And when you rent that out to an FBO, he'd be able to manage both of those and entice that business in for you. We're going to rework the parking and get some of that in there, but the concept we thought about down here, we've used 100 by 100 buildings, proposed hangars. This is a plan. What we kind of did was say, okay, the FAA has gotten real picky about what they'll pay for. Years ago, they would let you, they would pay right up to your hangar. You could put your hangar on the face of their apron and they'd pay for it. Now they've come back in the last couple of years and said, no, we don't do that anymore, because you put a hangar right there, you've now taken away, quote, public use of that thing. So they're going to force you to kick that back and get off that apron edge. Not knowing what everybody wanted for utilities, I think what we were talking about is just kind of, right now we're showing this as a lease lot. And from your standpoint, what you're going to do, the air authority is going to lease a prospective tenant a piece of property. And whether kind of what's going on out there, they're going to build their own parking lots, and they're going to build their own utility connections, their own hangar kind of best suited for what they want to do. So that's kind of how we started laying this out. We'll play with these dimensions and sizes. I know we had already discussed it. I think there's some talk about somebody's wanting a spot larger than a 100 by 100 hangar. That's fine. Then this is not surveyed. This is not written in stone. If a tenant comes up to you and says, well, what if I want a 150? Okay, well, we take that line right there and we just move it down 50 more foot, and we beat to fit, paint to match. This is just a guide to kind of show everybody what you want to do. These are the kind of things, once this goes on this needs to go to the FAA. so they can see it, and this is how they fund it. If it's not on these kind of plans, they won't fund it. So that's our thought. It's a plan that can change. I think there was some discussion in the past about limiting the sizes over here. I think that's a good idea for the board to get together at some point and kind of develop those minimum standards. It's an opportunity now where you've opened up a whole new world. It's time to develop some new minimum standards and update those for this area over here. You know, may not want the 50 by 25 hanger sitting right next to your, you know, $2 million hanger. So it's kind of one of those things, and there's nothing wrong with that. We do that all the time. So what we've shown, we've kind of rerouted the road. What we've got around is that road would come around and service the backside. We've shown a utility corridor in there. What we've tentatively got the FAA agreed to do right now is, as part of the phase 4 construction, so phase 3 is going to end this area with this full front apron and this small taxiway through the edge here. They'll be left with asphalt on that. 2 inches of asphalt. It won't be usable, but it'll be capped and protected from the weather. The phase 4, which is slated to start spring, or fall, if we can get the grant money out of them, there is about $2.7 million of construction dollars. It'll put more asphalt on that and bring that up to grade and bring that up to strength.
And $300,000 worth of engineering. I mean, it's a $3 million project.
It's about $3 million total project, and that includes, about $300,000 for engineering, $2.4 million for construction, and another 300-something thousand for utilities is what we're estimating right now.
So this is just for everybody to be on the same page. This is the 4th phase of about an $8 million project. So this will give us runways and or taxiways and aprons and ability to build hangar space and actually get into generating income business.
Yep, that's it. But we talked to the FAA. They said, as long as we're doing this as part of a larger project, they'd allow us to bring trunk line utilities in. So one of the things we're working with you guys now on is to look at this, come up with this plan, kind of size what we think the utility need might be: power, water, sewer, natural gas, telecommunications. Those are the highlights that we've got. If you guys know of something special that we're not thinking about, please.
And you think the FAA will pay for those utilities?
Yeah, right now the FAA have agreed to pay for them. We've estimated what we think it's going to cost, send that off to them, and we're waiting on a final confirmation from that. But they've asked us for the budget number so they can start programming the money and get it up to Washington so they can start pulling that money down. It is eligible as part of a larger project. They wouldn't come in and say, okay, I want to drop an 8-inch sewer line in today. They're not going to fund that. That's going to be between you and utility. If you're doing it as part of a larger development like this, they'll usually fund these, and I've had them funded that in the past, and that's what Kevin Morgan's telling us verbally, is if we can get it in part of this job, then he'll be able to fund it, get it in. So at the end of the day, we'll have utilities routed along the road that will service the terminal building and start down this corridor. Right now what we do is we would come in, we'd end toward the Highway 13 section over here, and it was all just kind of dead in there with preparations to go around.
You want to talk about T-Hangers? I know we didn't put any in.
I know,
here,
you said, you had
we
mentioned,
discussed it.
and other things that were mentioned over here was T-hangers. And I guess that kind of goes into a different discussion about the type and size of buildings you guys want on this site. There's some discussion of, just however you guys want to do it. I know, Vince, you had mentioned some T-hangers working out in an area down here. That would be, as I hate to say it this negatively, but at least intrusive. You have to be careful giving up your valuable apron space. So you kind of usually want to push your T-hangers back down and out of the way a little bit.
If they're all the way over here.
Right.
As long as we have some.
Right. So you just kind of want to get those down and out of the way, because the rule is once you put that smaller aircraft up front, then you've pigeonholed yourself for what can be developed behind it. Because those big airplanes need a lot of room.
I still don't believe the jets won't taxi back here. Small planes will.
Yeah.
We'll get the jets here and here.
I don't want to redesign this now, but I wanted to make a couple of comments.
Sure.
We talked about, the simpler one is that we talked about maybe putting just the shade hangers there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can command more than just parking them out on the runway, more money, but they're not as expensive to build as, say, T-hangers. But you're protecting the planes from hail and rain, sunlight, things like that. But then the other thing I wanted to point out was, let me show you, if you put whatever this is to be proposed here, and it's important to talk about it now, because if you run utilities here with the thoughts of putting a an FBO terminal, whatever you want to call it here, and then you have these hangars.
Those are hangars.
Those are parking spots.
These are the hangars.
Okay.
What's in
These
here
are only
would
parking
be
spots.
dedicated
That's
parking
open
spots in the airport.
Okay, good, because I was gonna say, that blocks the view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were in here,
And I-
you can't see
You're
it.
exactly right.
Yeah, let me back up and go back to how this thing was originally designed. The original design for this was for an airplane to come on here and be able to taxi in, pull up here, and then full power out on themselves. So this is primarily designed for your transient traffic, for your jets coming in,
Okay.
charter services, charter jets,
All right.
those stuff. Your hangars are limited to these guys over here.
If it's shaded, it's asphalt.
Yeah, if it's on the shaded part, it's asphalt.
No, I just thought that, I thought it was.
I know,
it was
that's one of
asphalt
those-
with a hanger on it.
Everybody does.
I said the first, I said the
Everybody-
first time.
I thought, I don't know about y'all, but I wanna see the plane land.
I said the exact same thing the first time I looked at it, that ain't gonna work.
Okay.
No, that's your dedicated parking spots.
I don't see any reason why we couldn't have shade hangers designed to be closed in later on and be a functional T hanger. It just doesn't have the signs on it when you start. And see
Yeah.
what the demand is.
I've seen that before.
It's not bad, to me, it just comes down to cost.
They've got them in Tuscaloosa, so it's gotta be a good idea.
I don't know about that.
I guess the biggest thing you have to do there is everything with a structure, especially down here, being that the wind loads and the characteristics of this category, you'd end up having to go ahead and probably construct the footings for the whole perimeter,
That's correct.
even on
I agree.
interior walls and whatnot, even though you may have it as a shade hanger and it be open. You still have to get those footings and things of that nature in there to work, would just be adding walls later. But
We just have to evaluate the
Have to
time
sit
to
down
see
and
if it's
see what the
worth.
real cost to finish it completely or
Right.
partially.
Yeah, that's, you're gonna eat most of your money up in the steel structure and the foundation. So we'd have to just weigh out, is it worth the additional labor materials for that versus coming back later and doing it for just finishing out the walls?
Is it 50/50 or 75/25?
right.
Yeah, I'm,
probably
it's closer to
75-25.
75-25 than it is 50-50. I mean, you're not saving half the cost of it. You're gonna, I mean, half the cost is gonna be in the foundation and the main structure.
Vertical structure, yeah, to get the, support the roof.
And matter of fact, that there are some cases that shade ports are worse because you have to provide so much uplift, allowing that wind to get underneath it. The walls aren't going anywhere, but you got so much uplift on that roof that your footers have to be bigger usually than they have to be for an open, closed basement.
Spoilers on top of it.
Yeah.
So,
Put some vents in.
so we'd have to look
How
at
you
it.
playing down well, so I'll do the roof.
I mean, shade ports, I mean, we run in that conversation all the time. There is a select group of people that like the shade ports. They want to pay a little less, and they don't care if their airplane's, under the carport versus the garage. You just have to decide whether or not we've got the market for, I mean, typically what I recommend my clients do is go down your waiting list and ask them, would you want shade ports instead? And if you get 20 of them to come back and say, man, I'd love a shade port, that's good enough for me, then it's time to build shade ports.
Did you get a chance to ask about the fuel farm there, any interference on the?
No, I have not. No, we tried to get with them, they were,
It's still suspect, but
Yeah.
we think it's okay.
I think so. The question there was, if that's decided where we want to put the fuel farm, I want to run that one up, probably up to Atlanta, to Region, to get them to verify that that's not going to have any effect on approach surfaces. We don't like building anything close to that runway side or in that approach area. With your ILS and your precision approach, they might want to get a little crazy with those things, so we don't want to propose anything that's not. I was going to say, this drawing is preliminary just for talking terms tonight.
Why don't you talk through the process, how we go through till we get to FAA approval in September?
Okay, well, it's kind of one of those, this was a little bit of an oddball because we've got this project going in 3 different timelines. The FAA, the process to getting this done is to redevelop this drawing. That's the process that we can decide where the buildings are going to go, what size you want them to be. That allows us to go through and preliminarily size and lay out utilities. That's issue number 1. The FAA wants the construction, the design of these utilities in a separate contract, so that way they can track it separately. But they want the construction to be lumped into the large construction project. So all three of those are going on at the same time. So we're just kind of chasing our tails on some of this, so it's kind of looking funny. We're doing little bits and pieces of each one. But the process is, we come up with this plan, we lay it out, we send the plan up to the FAA. They approve it, or they agree with it. Sometimes they don't like to use the word approve, but they'll agree to it. And then what we'll do is then we will in turn have our utility corridors laid out. We will then go back and actually design the utilities and how to tie in, do all the coordination with with City of Fairhope, with Ball and EMC and all the other, Mall whoever else we need to do for our telecommunications stuff, and get all that laid out with them. We will put out a package of utility drawings that will go inside the previously prepared package for the site work. That'll all be bid out as one job. Once that's bid out and we have that number in hand, we will then go to FAA with a grant, application. And
With a dollar amount.
with a dollar amount, it'll be a set dollar amount. We'll know exactly what it's gonna cost on all aspects of it. We'll have everything put in there based on your bid, based on contracts and everything. Then they'll go searching for money. Now, they can never guarantee money, but we get that 99% wink, because they can't guarantee anything until the grant comes out of Washington. But this ADO is very good. They don't ask us to get going. They would never ask us to invest this kind of money and this kind of effort, or you to invest this kind of money and effort, if they weren't extremely confident that those funds were available. And they've been planning for this job for 4 years. So this one's been on the books and in the cycle. So it's
So in August or in like July, you'll go do an RFP. When will you?
We'll go out to bid probably in June. I think
Okay.
they haven't given us a drop dead date for your grant yet. It's generally around middle of July. So usually in June, we'll go out for bid. We'll have our plan set ready in June. We'll go out for bid on that, take bids, get our bids, submit our bid package. Usually end of July, we'll probably hear at the July board meeting with the grant application in hand, making sure that one goes through. This one's got a lot of discretionary money in it, so those are kind of hard to predict when they'll fall out. If it goes up there and they got discretionary money sitting there, when it hits them, they'll do it. I think last year this one ran out literally to the last day.
Yeah.
They were dragging out. I think, Joe, they sent it to you, and it was one of those run around, sign it, and put it back in the mail today kind of grants. That's what you do when you get the free money from Grandpa.
Well, these are 95.5.
95 and 5.
95.5. We do 5%. AlDOT does 5%, and the FAA does 90%. So we've got to come up with $150,000,
Okay.
which we have, but.
Yeah. Assuming that grant gets approved, they'll issue your grant back and forth. By the time we get everybody, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks to get everybody's grants cycled around. AlDOT gives us our grant, tells us our money's in the bank. That's when we issue contracts.
Okay.
And then we'll go to work.
What earthwork are we gonna have to do in the next phase?
The only earthwork we're anticipating is the 2 connectors. To the runway fence. Yeah, we built, as part of this job, you'll have 2 inches on that's it, exactly. You will have 2 inches on the parallel taxiway. We did not get forward into that because I didn't want to have to close the runway more than one time.
So we're gonna have the road to here,
The road will be done.
this side here,
Yep.
this pad here,
And that parallel section of the taxiway.
this parallel section.
All the way down.
All the way down.
All parallel, yeah.
2 inches on that.
2 inches on that one.
Phase 4 will completely pave this and add the additional pavement to,
Show
There's one, what they're gonna have after this is over, because this will be just a stub taxiway right here. All this will be, and this.
Reason I was asking that, Bobby,
That'll be all
maybe you
2
could give
inches.
us a
okay?
hatched
Right there.
drawing.
This is for
Here's
ultimate
what's gonna have 2
that'll
inches
come
of
later,
asphalt when
once
we
we
get
got
through.
justification to.
That won't be phase
And then
4.
here-
This will
we'll
not
do
be phase 4.
this is
This is phase 3, 2 inches on.
We'll get
Do
that.
that, something
We'll
like
come
this.
back to
Yep.
phase 4, we'll
Okay.
put another 7 inches of asphalt.
We'll hatch out phase 3, phase 4.
Clear.
So why is phase 4 so much if you're not, the earthwork is done? And I
7
thought
inches of
the-
asphalt.
7 inches of asphalt, it goes for about,
The West Coast, where the majority of 3 was earthwork, the majority of 4 is asphalt.
yes.
Yeah, we actually went back and redesigned the original design a little bit because since the original design, the cost of crushed aggregate base, the cost of just 57 stone has gone through the roof. And it was cheaper for us to modify and put down a couple inches of asphalt and take away the 8 inches of the rock that was supposed to be there. It actually was cheaper to work out that way. And it gives you a better product on this end because we were able to cap that earthwork off with 2 inches of asphalt. And if it sits there, our plan at the time was, man, if we didn't make the 2017 fiscal year and we had to wait till 18, then you're okay. You're sitting there with 2 inches of asphalt and material. It'd be just like any other county road sitting around. Couldn't recommend you put traffic on it, but it would have been nice and secure and safe and wouldn't have to worry about it washing away on you.
And where was that 57 FAA approved stone coming from? Is that Coleman?
It's not 57, it's crushed aggregate
It's
base,
crushed
which is
aggregate
Gallica.
And that was coming from Coleman or somewhere?
It was coming from Birmingham.
Come down the river. No, but they've just
It's
got,
a Vulcan material.
they've just gotten crazy with that stuff the last few years.
I think just per ton for crushed aggregate base right now is in the neighborhood of close to 32, 33 bucks a ton, where you can buy asphalt for 45 to 50. Now, it costs a little more to lay it, you know what I mean? You're up in the $60 to $70 per ton to lay it, but
You don't need as
if
much
you,
of
if
it.
you can cut your 8 inches to 4, you end up, you end up salvaging what you have, and you ain't got to worry about coming back to it.
Any comments? Cal, do you have any comments? John?
The only one probably on the fuel farm area, the
Okay.
location there, is that primarily for access for tanker trucks?
It was two things. One, it was tanker trucks were in consideration. Valuable acre space. I can't build a whole lot there, so there's almost dead space from a hangar standpoint or a development standpoint. So, and there, and
That's because of
then,
BRL, I take it?
I'm sorry?
Is that because of the building restriction line?
yeah, well, and we can adjust the building restriction line around, but it's the height of the building. You start getting into, you get anything over a few foot off the ground, you start getting into problems that day. The other item was, having been able to allow people to hear the fuel, allowing yourself somewhere to stage. You're not always having to pull out here. A lot of it has to do with our phase, and we probably could pick a better spot if we were building the whole thing.
Right.
But knowing that this is all I'm getting right here for the first foreseeable future.
You're getting that in full.
Yeah, in that, and I'm getting basically this tax money right there. So where do I put it?
So you couldn't go over on here.
Yeah, couldn't go over there, just can't get to it. I can't stick it here, or, here, if you pull out, then you block everybody else. So if we were building the whole $10 million project at one time, we probably could find a better location that was more workable, but, and we're not done looking. I mean, that's just one of, that was our first argument, discussion about it. So we're gonna make sure we got the best place for everybody.
Cal, how would you fuel your plane? Through a truck, or would you fuel it through the?
Ideally, straight from the tank, and just pull it.
I think this, you could do both, is that fair? Or is
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we were discussing, is this would allow you to have your tanks there, be able to fuel from them. Or, typically the tanks we recommend and stuff like this allow both, under refueling and, bottom loading from the truck. So you can do both. You just pop a few valves, turn it on,
Yeah, that's what-
you load
that's
your
what we
truck,
got
or you
one.
load your airplane.
Ideally, if we could avoid having the truck.
I mean, the whole, one of the fundamental concepts here is this is a clustered fuel farm. One fuel farm for all the corporate anglers on the east side,
Clustered area.
for the area.
Yeah.
For jet fuel. Any, Bill?
So Joe, is the concept here, it's self-fueling?
No, I think we knocked around both self-fueling and having a fuel truck. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a business decision.
Well, is it gonna be set up for self-serve avgas?
Joe, I think what we had discussed, that's gonna kind of be a decision that the airport and the FBO make together, of whether or not it's beneficial to have self-serve, or is the FBO just saying, I'm gonna do full service, everything. We're gonna allow enough area over there that if you decided that, hey, I'm the FBO today and I need 24-hour self-serve jet fuel, then we'll have it set up. That's kind of why we stuck it where we did over here, that would give you some flexibility to drive in, drive out.
Is it set up just for jet?
Just for jets.
We haven't said that, no, Joe,
Well, I thought we had the.
I thought we talked about looking at 3 to 4 jet tanks and 1 avgas tank.
Okay. I mean, it's big enough for that,
You
but.
gotta have avgas for your FBO.
You have to.
We were talking about jet on the others.
Yeah, I think we were talking about both, and this layout here allows some transit traffic to pull up. And like I said, I don't know if it's right here. That was the initial conversation generator.
I think it's undecided, and I think that, the authority's going to make that decision. Like we had talked about, we don't want to water down the value of the FBO either, so. Something we just have to decide on.
So is the concept then to just have one FBO on?
This does not lock us into changing FBOs or getting new FBOs. This is just building out the east side. Is that fair? I mean, we're not adding, this is not part of an FBO discussion.
And nothing this plan is going to do is going to lock that in. I don't envision this plan. This plan is not going to be to the detail that says your avgas tank has to go right here. It's going to have an area dedicated for fuel farm, because I don't know if you're going to show up when I need a 10,000 gallon, a 20,000 gallon. I don't know if I want it to be 10-foot diameter, 8-foot diameter. Those are the kind of things that we're just trying to get. This plan isn't going to go any more than saying, this is where I want fuel farms, this is where I want hangars. We're planning for about this size, this many. If you come up, if you had a guy walk in here tomorrow and said he wants to build a 400-foot by 200-foot hangar, we're moving all this stuff around and we're building a hangar here. That's just how this is going to work. We don't care that these lot lines need to move 50-foot, 80-foot, and that's why we're not going to the point of having this surveyed. This isn't going to be locked into this area like we've got. It's just a general plan that you have to tweak every time somebody comes up, and address each case. But it builds the steps and the concepts and the ideas of how we want to go forward.
Just allocating space, basically, is what it's doing.
As far as additional T-hangers, I just wonder if there isn't room on the west side as opposed to putting T-hangers over here. And Joe, I had mentioned to you the last time you were out at the airport, when I mentioned that at one time, if you can't go from where the north hangar is, where the entrance to my facility is, up towards 32 against the fence and put a taxiway in to connect to the runway on that side, or go south along the old taxiway and put T-hangers along there. There's a lot of room. I don't know what the
I think that's one of the things
from the FAA standpoint.
Yeah.
But
I think that's one of the things they've asked us to address as part of this planning study, is we need more T-hangers. That's obvious. You got a waiting list, you got people beating down the doors, need T-hangers.
Yeah.
My job is to figure out where they gotta go. Do I have to put them over here? Do we want them over here? Or do you care where they're at, you just want them? And that's kind of the conversation we're having. That's on me as part of this job, to sit down, and those are the exact 3 areas I was already thinking about is, where do I have room? Where can I go forward?
Yeah, if you want to put T-hangers, we'll find you some place on the west side to put some.
Yeah. And as far as shade hangers, I know there's a market for them. We'll run them for less than what we're running the current hangers for. There's, I don't want to call them old airplanes because I'm going to insult somebody when I do that, but there's a bunch of aircraft that we could get in there that aren't willing to pay what we're charging for T-hangers, but want a place to come where their airplane is covered.
There's some very valuable antique airplanes that need some shade.
There are.
Vintage.
People that can afford to pay for it.
You'd be sensitive. All right.
Anything else?
If I may, I just got a question to Jake's comment though about the fuel funds for the corporate hangars. When will that decision be made?
I really couldn't answer that. I think we're just a little premature. That'd be up to the authority to decide when we do that. It would involve all the parties, corporate hangars, I think FBO should be involved, and the airport authority to decide, how we want to build this out. I don't know if we're there yet. Are we? I don't think we're too far away, but we can't put anything on this anyway right now until we get through a phase 4, right?
No, we're not through to phase 4. I think this has to go in conjunction with development of phase 4.
Reason being, Jack, is that whenever they start that phase 4 to go ahead and finish this and tie these connectors into the runway, we need to, if they're gonna give us the money, like Bobby was saying, as part of a bigger project, the utilities need to be part of that Phase 4 project.
Okay.
So the sooner we can kind of at least get a utility corridor established, that kind of sets the tone for where things are gonna go and how they're gonna get over there to that utility trunk. So if we know that, okay, yeah, we know we're gonna have corporate hangars here, then we can sort of run a trunk line down where we kind of halfway proposed it.
Well, when do we have to decide how the fuel farm is gonna be? You know, is it gonna be self-serve, or is it gonna be run by an FBO? When do we need to have an answer?
Jack, I don't think.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I think there's two different, I think the question he's asking is consolidated fuel farms in that particular location. And what I'm understanding your question, or your comment to be, whether or not we have a self-serve system and competing against my own FBO and diluting the service. I think there were two different.
Both of them, yeah.
And I think his question has to be answered pretty quick. I don't care when you answer yours. Yours is indefinite out in the future. You don't need to answer that until it gets time to drop that FBO in or drop that fuel system in.
And I'm particularly interested, Jack, because the business case for building a hangar for the corporate is very much tied to having your own fuel tank. And being able to do fuel like has been done for the other two lessees on the
Sure.
west side. And so, I understand that hasn't been finally decided upon, but I think that's on the critical path before you can get an RFP. And then we want to bid to build a hangar. But we would like to have our hangar in service within weeks of you signing off and saying Phase 4 is complete, the asphalt's dry, you're ready to use it. I mean,
So you would be building the hangar in concert with us doing the Phase 4?
Ideally, such that we're not in the way of you accomplishing Phase 4, but we'd like to be in place, like the meeting we had previously, I'd like to be in place and operating as soon as practical once Phase 4 is finished.
I think your discussion has to be, a decision has to be made on that discussion within weeks. I don't say next week or the week after, but in the immediate future.
And we're, so the authority knows we want to stay here, we want to stay part of the airport, but we've got to make a decision whether we stay or go to another airport. And we've got to make that decision pretty quick.
So just as a businessman, you need to know whether or not you're being given that right to your own private fuel farm.
Right.
So,
And I guess your question
So look forward to
was
that.
a decision the authority would make on what level of service you provide.
Well, no, I was actually talking corporate versus it, being totally controlled by one entity.
I think right now, the way we're approaching it is it's a mix. Is that there will be space dedicated in that, wherever that is, there'll be space dedicated in that for your FBO, and your FBO will control those tanks. And then there'll be space set aside for the other tenants
Yeah.
to build their
The only
facilities.
problem is that if you get on the private hangars, I'm sensitive to your comments. If you allow the private fuel for the one corporate hangar, and then you allow for the next, and then the next, and then the next, and then you wind up with 10 corporate hangars, and they all have separate fuel farms, you have 10 fuel farms, the FBO value that there's,
Okay, I see what you're
it takes
saying.
away their value.
I see.
You
That's
lessen the
why-
value of the FBO.
Lessens the
Yeah, I see
value
what
of
you're saying.
that.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
why, it's not just one person, you have to look to the future of how we want to grow. Doesn't say just because we allow it for one, that we have to allow it for everybody, but you got to be careful.
You have a precedence.
It's a precedent.
We're going to try to address those in a rewrite of the minimum standards on the east side. We're getting some help from an outside attorney that, we've got a blank sheet of paper on the east side. On the west side, I think we're pretty much committed to where we are now. But on the east side, I think there's some things that we can say in the minimum standards that will manage that process.
Jack, I've been in most of those conversations. My concept of it is if we settle on a fuel farm location, settle on the size of that fuel farm, which is going to determine, this is me speaking now, this is no vote's been taken here. All right, so now you have an FBO that wants to have gas and jet. So they have 2 tanks over there. You have some individuals that want to build a corporate hangar like the 2 that we're having built now by Mid-Bay and Cedar Creek that want their own fuel. It can be a first come, first served bid basis. If you want to get a hangar with a fuel farm, you need to get in early, and then once this fuel farm is full, whether we decide whether it's an FBO in 1, an FBO in 2, an FBO in 3, whatever it is, but once this fuel farm comes full, then it's full, because that's the only area we're designating. But we would have to write that in our standards for the east side and advertise it up front that way, so that if Kel was gonna bid on it, he would know that, hey, today's the day you're gonna put in the best bid, because once these are gone, there's not a fuel farm there. And that would apply to everybody, of course. And then you have a fair chance to get a decent LPO. You have a fair chance to get several corporate hangars, and then you have a good chance to have a good, viable airport on both sides.
Anything else?
I don't know if that's any closer to answering your question.
The silence.
It's a tough question.
Good stuff.
It's a good question.
Silence is deafening.
Okay, all right. Number 7 is, I guess a month ago now, we closed our bond issue, and there's some outstanding issues hanging over it, basically paying the legal fees. And there were we estimated the legal fees would be $60,000. They came in right at $53,000. I would like to have the authority approve the payment of those legal fees. And having said that, I have paid Thomas Logino his legal fees. So anyway, so long story short is legal fees, Thomas Logino's fee was $46,500. His estimate was $50,000. He was under that. Jones Walker, who represented the city's legal fees were $4,850.
Which one? 4,850?
Not $48,000.
Yeah.
And then Boss Bingham fees, who represented the Bryant Bank, were $10,000. I've negotiated that down to $3,000.
Good job.
And you're not gonna get a raise.
So anyway, long story short is I would like the board's approval to pay those legal fees. And having said that, I have paid Thomas Logano's legal fees. Again, it was under what we estimated. It's like $56,000 all in. And it is what it is. I mean, bond issues are expensive.
Well, absolutely.
Somebody make a motion to pay the bills. I'll make the motion to pay them.
Second.
Did you already make the motion?
He did.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor of paying the legal fees, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank y'all. Treasurer's report, you've got in your package, you'll see, I guess the only thing that's really, we still haven't, when are we going to have final, we still need to get the final numbers. We usually have an audit reconciliation by this time, but these are still unaudited numbers for year end, and the adjustments have not been made. I would hope any day now we would get new numbers. The only thing that's different in this month is that you'll see that the legal fees, both Thomas Logino's and Jones Walker legal fees, have been accounted for but not paid. And we've got the checks ready to sign. So that's where the big number, if you will.
9,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everything else is pretty, and we actually have a deferred expenses bond issue. That's what that is. So, anyway, any questions on the financials?
Well, the city's audit has been done for quite a while.
Yeah.
And so, there's no more auditing going on right now.
Well, she needs to push down there's some adjustments she makes, that Jill usually makes, and I will ask her to make the adjustments, and we'd end up with a 930, a year in 930 that looks right, and then she'd make the adjustments, I'll ask Jill that going, to make those adjustments. She actually puts depreciation, a couple of other things in, but we should have an audited financial statements by now. Okay?
It should have, just ask Jill.
The final thing on the treasurer's report is one of the commitments that we made as part of the bond issue was to move our operating account to Bryant Bank. And I'd like to have a board of recommendation that we do that, or a board approval to do that, with the signers being myself, Jack Burrell, Deborah Smith, and Ray Hicks. Same setup as we have now, but I need a motion to approve moving our primary operating account to Bryant Bank.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. Jack, any discussion? I think we've done everything, but that was just part of what they asked us for that.
I just want to state for the record, I have never signed a check for the airport authority in my life and don't plan to. Unless all three others are out of town.
That's not going to encourage it. Okay, I appreciate that, Jack. All right, so the motion is to move the operating account, and we'll craft a recommendation that's clever enough that they'll approve.
Wait a minute, I do have a question.
Okay.
The operating account, but there's still a money market account and an FAA 2016 account. Now, are those included or not?
Okay, I did not move. The young man from PNC was very helpful, so I'm going to keep our construction account at PNC Bank,
Okay.
which is where, when we get our money from the FAA, we deposit that money somewhere else. I think it's good practices to keep them at separate banks anyway, and we'll continue to do that. Okay?
I don't have a problem with that, I just want to clarify.
No, that's that. When the dust settles, we'll have an operating account and
Bryant.
and we'll have our construction account at PNC.
PNC.
And what about the money market account?
Yeah.
It'll go to Bryant. 'Cause it's
So
actually-
the operating account and the money market account.
Okay,
We might want to make the motion that they both.
Let's amend that motion that we
Yeah.
move to Bryant Bank our operating account and our money market account.
Which is really a sweep. It actually, we put money in the operating account, it sweeps, and then we get a little interest.
Yeah, I was
You
going to
definitely
say,
might be
because we
following that
only
sweep.
specified the operating, so we do need an amended
I appreciate
motion.
that.
And I'll second your amended motion.
All those in favor of the amended motion, which I'll help you with the wording on that, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Anybody opposed? Okay.
The PNC is going to keep the construction account, and that's it.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
And that's the only three accounts we have.
We have 3 accounts, yes, sir. Other business, I'll take the lead here. 2 things. One, we did get the power washing all, probably 90% complete. I looked at it Thursday afternoon, last Thursday afternoon, and I think they did an exceptional job. I think there's some more work to be, some additional work to be done, but
I haven't looked at it, but I talked to Chip today, and he said it looks great, but the yellow hold short lines, they didn't realize that was part of their contract, but they're going to do them anyway.
yeah.
But we've got to do a NOTAM, shut the runway down for about an hour and a half one night. And Chip went out the other day, and since Kyle's not there, there was a little lack of coordination. They were fixing to just do it.
Yeah, just
He
do
said,
it.
Time
That's
out.
not good. Yeah, yeah.
Let's don't do that. So
We'll work through that issue this week. Okay?
He's working on that. Yeah, it'll be about an hour and a half one night, or either one morning, 6 to 7:30.
Pam, do you have something?
Yes, today we had a meeting for the upcoming September conference of the National Association of State Aviation Officials that will be held in Fairhope, September 9th through 13th, the Grand Hotel. This will bring in approximately 350 participants, plus spouses and partners. So we had a coordination meeting with Dr. Egerton and his staff. He's head of the Aeronautical Bureau for ALDOT, city officials, the chamber, and the Downtown Merchants Association. So we have our timeline and our action steps, and Dr. Egerton was pleased with where we were on the planning for this conference, which should bring a lot of revenue into the city and introduce a whole new cadre of people to Fairhope.
What's the date again?
September 9th through 13th, 2017.
Bill, do you have a comment? You want to talk about the FBO, give us an FBO status?
Yeah, I do, thanks, Joe. First, let me introduce myself to, well, Bill Stronger.
Hey, Bill. We've met out at the airport briefly.
Okay. Yeah, so, Joe's mentioned Kyle Clinner has left the job as being manager of the FBO, and you can't fault him for it because he's pursued a lifelong dream. He's just moving down the runway to fly for Alan Bones, and so we wish him well on that. He's going off for several months of training, and then he'll be back. So let me talk about the steps that were taken to replace him and further improve the FBO. So I've interviewed a couple people to replace Kyle. I've made a decision on one. I have an offer letter in my email inbox to sign, and then that'll go to the guy tomorrow. He may be available as early as Monday to report for work. If that's the case, great. He said something strange today. He said, my company that I work for today, if they find out you're interviewing, they fire you immediately. So he may be available tomorrow for all I know. So, but a real good guy. He's a pilot, he's an A&P. He worked at the Millionaire facility over in Mobile when it was the Millionaire facility, and knows the FBO business, and he's been out of aviation for a couple of years, wants to get back in, loves airplanes, loves pleasing customers, so I'm hoping he accepts the offer and comes on board quickly. In the meantime, I've hired another full-time flight line guy. So with the manager of the FBO, there'll be 3 full-time people, 10 in the aircraft. I've hired a full-time person behind the desk at the FBO. And that person will report in the next couple of weeks. Her job will be to greet the customers, take care of fuel invoices, take care of car rentals, the crew car, make sure there's popcorn and cookies and coffee and stuff like that. And I'm gonna hire a second part-time flight line guy. So we'll have, the part-time folks generally work the weekends in conjunction with a full-time guy. So the objective is to always have at least 2 people on the flight line at all times. We're open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and 7 days a week. And so the objective there is to always have at least 2 folks tending airplanes, in addition to somebody behind the desk. So that's where we're heading in terms of personnel. I've also lightened up the workload for the general manager of the FBO. So we had Kyle doing a lot of things. He not only was running the FBO, but he was taking care of, I have the maintenance facility there, so all the engine maintenance, the airframe maintenance, the avionics shop, all report to me as well. And Kyle was taking care of maintenance on our equipment. He was taking care of complying with the ADEM environmental hazard rules. He was taking care of disposal of scrap metals and old tires and so forth. And we have grown so much there over the last couple of years that now was taking up a good chunk of his time. So I have another full-time person coming in, knock on wood, within the next couple of weeks. He's been identified. He currently works over in Mobile. He's going to move over to work in the Fairhope facility and take care of all that stuff. So that will relieve the FBO manager of a lot of distraction, a lot of bureaucratic stuff that Kyle was having to deal with. So I think I've made some good moves here to improve the service at the FBO. In addition, we sent out a survey over the last couple weeks to a couple hundred of our customers looking for ideas on what we can do to improve the service at the FBO. We've started getting feedback. It's a SurveyMonkey survey.
Yeah.
And so I anticipate within the next couple of weeks we'll get a final report out of our folks who handle that for us, and we'll figure out the steps we need to take. Over the longer term, over the next couple of years, there's a standard that's been published called the International Standard for Business Aircraft Handling. It's about this thick, and it covers all aspects of handling aircraft at an FBO. And there's very, very few FBOs that have been able to qualify for this. Usually they are much bigger FBOs than we are. But I've tasked the folks that are there, as well as the new FBO manager, that we will qualify for this within 2 years. So this will be something that we can advertise. It's something, Pam, that you can advertise. And so it's going to be very difficult and very expensive for us to qualify for this. But it's an objective I've set for myself and for the team there, and we'll get there. So that 5 minutes in a nutshell, that's the direction we're heading with the FBO.
Sounds good.
Bill, is the avionics shop fully moved over now?
It's fully moved over, but it's not in its final quarters. So they, the radio shop is on the second floor of the FBO. The install shop is in the south hangar. When we finish the renovation of the north hangar, they will move up to the north hangar. Yeah, the FAA comes in for an inspection next Tuesday to give us the blessing, and then we're fully operational. We've been fully operational, but the FAA has final rights to.
What about the engine test cell?
So the engine test cell, I received 4 bids. 3 of them were about as much as you charge me.
So you had 3 good bids.
That's like good.
Yeah, they were good already. They passed the weight test. We got one that was right in line with what I anticipated. We've made some other adjustments. I've got a brief read sometime this week on the direction I want to go with it, and then we'll brief the board, and I anticipate we'll have that under contract sometime in the summer. And then we can finish the new wall on the west.
We owe
the
them a
west
new wall on the east side. That was the last of.
On the east side.
East side.
The east side, yeah.
Our last commitment was that we said we would what do you call it?
Reskin.
Reskin it, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and there's going to be, what we're talking about, today we have test carts that we mount the engines on. We pull them out on the ramp, and we run engines, and then we put it back into the hangar. We can't run at night. We can't run in the rain. They take a long time to test. It's a shift to mount an engine, run it, demount it. So we're going with an automated test cell, and this will cut our mount test and demount time down to about 2.5 to 3 hours.
It's gonna be a lot quieter.
It's in a silenced room. Neighbors don't complain now about us testing engines, but there will be absolutely no noise. The engine can be running right there, and that's where the cell would be, and you and I can be talking just like what we're talking right now. So it's very quiet, very efficient, and apparently
To answer
very
your question,
expensive.
if Bill would have turned me loose 2 years ago, he'd already be in there.
Yeah. We could have got that.
And bankrupt. Yeah.
We
So,
appreciate what y'all do. Y'all do a great job for us, and it's been a great relationship.
Good, appreciate that, Jim.
Shirley, do you have anything?
Only following up to Pam's comments about helping to host an ASEO conference. We're excited about that. We're looking forward to the potential March conference too, right?
No, Bill's team, you made the decision not to put in a proposal for next year, is that
Yeah,
correct?
Shirley, we have, you asked me about the new building over in Mobile. Continental Motors Group has a lot going on right now, and I'm just trying not to extend us. So we've kind of pulled back on that until we get everything else taken care of. So we're looking at 2019 to do something like that. And by that point in time, the east side will be fully fully completed and.
Probably have a
Yeah,
general aviation terminal.
Probably
too.
have the terminal, so it would be a better year to apply for.
Yeah.
We're happy to have you in 2019 too then. Thank you.
Anybody from the, anybody that wants to participate, or anybody public participation, anybody having comments? Okay. Seeing no comments, I'll adjourn the meeting at 5:35.